2:17 in the morning. The world outside is still and silent, but inside your chest, something feels terribly wrong. You wake suddenly, your heart hammering as if you've just run up a flight of stairs. A dull, throbbing headache pulses behind your eyes, and when you reach for the bedside lamp, your fingers feel clumsy, as though they're no longer entirely yours to command. The switch slips away from your grasp twice before you manage to flick it on. Your reflection in the dresser mirror seems slightly tilted, and there's a strange heaviness creeping down your right arm. If you've never experienced this, it's hard to imagine the fear that sets in. If you have, you know that in those seconds your mind races. Is this a stroke? Is my heart failing? You try to stand, but your legs feel unsteady. And deep down you sense this is not just getting older. Something else is at play. As a brain doctor who has treated thousands of patients over 60, I've seen this story unfold far too many times. The person who went to bed feeling perfectly fine ends up in the emergency room before sunrise, terrified and confused. And when we trace back what happened, the trail doesn't lead to alcohol, to smoking, or to some rare, exotic poison. It leads to something shockingly ordinary, something many seniors consume. Almost without thinking, a nightly drink they believe is harmless, even healthy. You might be picturing a steaming cup of tea, a glass of warm milk, or perhaps a sweet fruit drink to help you sleep. And you'd be partly right. The beverage I'm talking about isn't on any dangerous drinks list. It's sold in every supermarket, often marketed with comforting words like relaxing, natural, or good for you. But inside your aging body, this drink can become a silent saboteur, setting off a chain of events that put your heart and brain at risk exactly when they are most vulnerable during the night. Here's why. After the age of 60, the body changes in ways we often underestimate. Your blood vessels naturally become less flexible, a process called vascular stiffening. Your heart's ability to slow down and rest during the night isn't as strong as it once was. Your kidneys, which help control fluid balance and blood pressure, aren't quite as quick or efficient. This means that substances you might have easily processed in your 40s or 50s can now linger longer in your system, doing more damage than you realize. This particular nighttime drink can raise your blood pressure while you sleep, thicken your blood, and force your heart to pump harder at the very time it should be recovering. That extra strain may not cause noticeable symptoms right away. In fact, you might think you're getting a good night's sleep. But beneath the surface, your cardiovascular system is under silent attack. I recall one patient, Mrs. Ellen P., age 68, who came to see me after a frightening early morning episode. She had woken with slurred speech and weakness in her left hand. By the time she reached the hospital, the symptoms had eased, but tests revealed she had suffered a transient ischemic attack, often called a mini-stroke. She was stunned when we traced one of the key contributors back to her nightly habit of enjoying a certain soothing drink before bed. What seemed harmless was, in her case, the spark that lit the fire. And the danger isn't only in the ingredients, you know, are there? Many drinks contain hidden caffeine. Unexpected sugar spikes, excess sodium, or compounds that interfere with your body's natural nighttime repair cycle. For a younger person, this might simply cause restless sleep. For a senior, it can be enough to push the heart and brain over the edge. This isn't about fear-mongering. It's about understanding the unique needs of your body after 60 and making small, powerful changes that could save your life. Stopping this one habit could significantly reduce your risk of nighttime strokes, heart strain, and dangerous blood pressure surges. Before we go any further, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. Today, I'm going to walk you through the science, the stories, and the surprising truth about this seemingly innocent nighttime drink, and why removing it from your evening routine could be the single most important step you take for your heart and brain health this year. As we age, our bodies go through gradual yet profound changes. You can't always feel in the moment, but that dramatically affect how your heart and brain respond to daily habits. One of the most overlooked of these changes is something called vascular stiffening. It's exactly what it sounds like. Your once supple arteries, which used to expand and contract effortlessly with each heartbeat, become less flexible over time. In your younger years, your arteries worked like shock absorbers for your blood flow. Every time your heart pumped, they expanded to handle the pressure, then relaxed again, keeping blood pressure smooth and steady. But after 60, the walls of those vessels naturally thicken and lose elasticity due to a buildup of collagen-calcium deposits and subtle structural changes in the arterial wall. This is part of normal aging, but it has serious consequences, especially at night. Here's why this matters when we talk about a certain nighttime drink. When your arteries are stiff, they can't buffer sudden changes in blood pressure the way they used to. If you drink something that spikes your blood pressure, whether from caffeine, sugar, sodium, or even certain plant compounds, your arteries simply can't adapt quickly enough. The pressure wave travels straight to the delicate blood vessels in your brain and heart, stressing them in ways you might not notice until something goes wrong. Let me tell you about one of my patients, Robert H., a 72-year-old retired teacher. Robert was always proud of his heart health. He ate a balanced diet, walked every morning, and saw his doctor regularly. But he also had one small indulgence, a large mug of his favorite healthy hot beverage every night before bed. He thought it helped him unwind and sleep better. One winter morning, his wife found him sitting at the kitchen table with a blank stare, unable to recall what day it was or why he had gotten up so early. In the hospital, we discovered Robert had experienced a mild stroke, not severe enough to leave lasting damage, but serious enough to scare him. As we reviewed his habits, the pattern became clear. His nighttime drink was loaded with compounds that caused brief but powerful blood pressure surges, which his stiff arteries could no longer absorb. Over time, these surges increased the wear and tear on his vascular system, setting the stage for that early morning episode. Medical research backs this up. Studies show that in people over 60, nighttime blood pressure surges are more strongly linked to stroke risk than daytime spikes. This is partly because your blood vessels are supposed to be resting at night. A sudden rise in pressure while you're lying down increases strain on the brain's fragile microvessels, making them more prone to rupture or blockage. The problem is most seniors don't connect their bedtime drink to these risks. After all, it's just a drink. But for an aging cardiovascular system, the timing and content of that drink can make all the difference. It's like driving a car with worn-out shock absorbers. You might manage fine on a smooth road, but hit one pothole at the wrong moment, and you're in trouble. If your arteries could talk, they'd tell you they're doing their best, but they need your help. Every unnecessary spike in pressure is another stress they can't easily recover from. And the scary part, you may not feel any warning signs until it's too late. So ask yourself, is that moment of comfort at night worth the risk of waking up to a blurred face in the mirror, a trembling hand, or a hospital ceiling you didn't expect to see? And if you think this is alarming, wait until you hear about the caffeine-clot connection in the very next section, where even the small amounts of caffeine in certain drinks can set off a chain reaction in your blood with consequences that may shock you. When most people think of caffeine, they picture that jolt of energy in the morning, the steaming cup of coffee that clears the fog and gets the day started. But few realize that even tiny amounts of caffeine, especially when consumed at night, can quietly tip the balance in the bloodstream toward a dangerous state. And for seniors over 60, that shift can be enough to spark a serious cardiovascular event while you sleep. Here's what happens. Caffeine is a natural stimulant, and one of its primary effects is to increase heart rate and blood pressure. This is why you feel more awake after drinking it. But caffeine also triggers a subtle but important change in your blood chemistry. It increases platelet activity. Platelets are the tiny disc-shaped cells in your blood that clump together to stop bleeding. You need them for survival, but if they become too active, they can stick together and form clots when you don't actually need them. For someone with flexible arteries and a young responsive circulatory system, this increased clotting potential may not be dangerous in the short term. But if you're over 60, where arterial stiffening and slower blood flow are already factors, those extra clingy platelets can turn into silent time bombs. A clot forming at night while you're lying down can block a blood vessel in the brain or heart before you ever feel the warning signs. One of my patients, Margaret W., 69, learned this the hard way. She had never been much of a coffee drinker, but she enjoyed a cup of a natural energy tea every evening. She believed it was caffeine-free, but in reality it contained about 25 milligrams of caffeine per cup, less than a standard coffee, but enough to have an effect. One morning, she woke up feeling slightly dizzy and noticed her speech was slower than usual. By the time she reached the hospital, the symptoms were fading, but scans revealed a small ischemic event, a clot blocking blood flow to part of her brain. When we analyzed her lifestyle, the culprit was hiding in plain sight. That small dose of caffeine at night was enough to raise her blood pressure and make her platelets stickier during sleep, a perfect recipe for clot formation. It didn't matter that she was otherwise healthy her age, and vascular condition amplified the risk. What makes this even more concerning is that caffeine's effects can last much longer in older adults. While a younger person might process caffeine in 3 to 5 hours, seniors often take 8 to 12 hours to fully clear it. This means that a drink consumed at 8 p.m. could still be influencing your cardiovascular system at 2 or 3 a.m. Exactly when your body should be in its lowest risk, most restorative state. And caffeine doesn't just come from coffee or obvious energy drinks. It can be hiding in herbal blends, chocolate-based drinks, green teas, and even some sleep teas that use natural stimulants to balance drowsiness. These amounts may seem small, but in the aging body, the margin for safety is much narrower. The clotting effect is not theoretical. It's well documented in medical literature. Research shows that caffeine's stimulation of catecholamines, stress hormones, increases both heart workload and platelet aggregation. For seniors, especially those with hypertension, atrial fibrillation, or a history of vascular disease, this combination is dangerous. Now you might be thinking, but I've had coffee at night before, and nothing happened. The truth is, these events don't always strike after a single cup. They're the result of repeated nightly stress on the vascular system. Over weeks, months, or years, this constant strain can lead to the moment when a clot forms at exactly the wrong time and in exactly the wrong place. If you've been in the habit of enjoying even a mild caffeinated drink at night, it's worth asking yourself whether the comfort it brings is worth the silent risks it carries. The stakes are simply higher now, and if caffeine can be this dangerous, just wait until you learn about the sugar spike deception in the next section, where even natural sugars in your bedtime drink can set off a dangerous roller coaster in your blood that puts both your heart and brain in jeopardy. When you think of sugar, your mind might jump to candy bars, soda, or rich desserts. But the truth is, many seniors unknowingly take in large doses of sugar right before bed, often in the form of a so-called healthy nighttime drink. It might be a fruit smoothie, a warm milk-based drink with honey, or a store-bought herbal tea blend that's been pre-sweetened. You may sip it thinking it's natural sugar, so it's fine. Here's the reality. Your body doesn't care whether that sugar came from a ripe mango or a spoonful of table sugar. Once it's in your bloodstream, it triggers the same metabolic response, and for someone over 60, that can be a dangerous setup for your heart and brain while you sleep. After 60, your insulin sensitivity naturally decreases. This means your body isn't as efficient at moving sugar out of the bloodstream and into the cells where it can be used for energy. When you drink something sugary before bed, your blood sugar spikes rapidly. Your pancreas responds by flooding your system with insulin to bring it down. But because your metabolism is slower at night, and even more so in older age, the drop in blood sugar can be overly steep. This sharp rise and fall is what I call the sugar spike deception. On the surface, it seems harmless. You have a sweet drink, you drift off to sleep. But behind the scenes, your body is working overtime. The initial spike raises your heart rate and blood pressure, forcing your cardiovascular system into a state of alertness instead of rest. Then, when the inevitable crash comes a few hours later, Your body releases stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline to prevent dangerously low blood sugar. Those hormones can jolt you awake, create palpitations, and in some cases, trigger heart rhythm disturbances in vulnerable seniors. Let me tell you about one patient, Sandra L., age 71. She had developed a bedtime ritual of drinking a tall glass of warm milk with honey and a small banana blended in. She believed it helped her sleep better. But for weeks she was waking up around 3 a.m. with a pounding heart and occasional lightheadedness. When we tested her overnight glucose patterns, we saw the truth. Her sugar levels were spiking sharply right after her drink, then plunging into a borderline low range hours later. That drop, combined with a nighttime blood pressure surge, was putting tremendous strain on her heart. And here's the part most people don't realize. Frequent sugar spikes at night are strongly associated with increased risk of both heart disease and stroke in older adults. Why? Because those repeated surges and crashes create oxidative stress, tiny bursts of damage to your blood vessels that accumulate over time. For arteries already stiffened by age, each episode chips away at their resilience, making them more prone to rupture or blockage. Even natural sugars like those in fruit juice or honey have the same effect. The glycemic load, the total impact on your blood sugar, can be surprisingly high in a small volume of liquid because drinks are absorbed faster than solid foods. And if you think switching to artificial sweeteners is the answer, be cautious. Some sweeteners can still trigger insulin release or cause other metabolic effects that interfere with nighttime rest and vascular repair. What's most alarming is that sugar-related heart strain is silent. You might not notice anything beyond occasional nighttime restlessness, or you might chalk up your morning fatigue to just getting older. But the damage builds quietly, and for some the first real symptom is a medical emergency. So ask yourself, is that sweet drink at night worth the risk of waking up in an emergency room? And if you think sugar is sneaky, wait until you hear about the next danger hiding in your bedtime drink: hidden sodium. You'll be shocked to learn how even healthy nighttime beverages can load your system with salt-spiking blood pressure in the middle of the night when your heart should be at rest. When we talk about salt and heart health, most people think of chips, canned soups, or fast food. But sodium, the mineral in salt that raises blood pressure, has a way of slipping into our diets where we least expect it. And one of the most overlooked sources for seniors is in certain nighttime drinks marketed as healthy or restorative. You might be wondering, how can a drink have that much sodium? The truth is, many instant drink mixes, powdered supplements, and even plant-based milk alternatives contain significant sodium as part of their flavoring or as a stabilizer. Some herbal blends use sodium-based preservatives to keep them shelf-stable. And protein-based nighttime shakes. They often contain sodium to improve taste and solubility, even when they're labeled as low sugar or heart healthy. Here's why this is especially dangerous for seniors. After 60, your kidneys, which are responsible for filtering excess sodium out of the blood, become less efficient. Sodium that would have been flushed out quickly in your younger years now lingers longer in the bloodstream, pulling extra water into your blood vessels. This increases blood volume, which in turn raises blood pressure. And for someone with already stiffened arteries, that pressure hits with greater force, stressing the heart and delicate brain vessels. I remember a patient named Harold M. 74, who had been trying to manage mild hypertension with diet alone. He prided himself on avoiding processed foods, rarely salted his meals, and believed he was doing everything right. But every few weeks, Harold would wake in the night with a pounding headache and flushed skin. One evening, his wife insisted on checking his blood pressure. During one of these episodes, it was 190/98, a dangerously high level. When we looked at Harold's food diary, the answer was hiding in his nightly muscle recovery drink. It contained over 400 milligrams of sodium per serving, nearly a fifth of the recommended daily limit, and he was drinking it just before bed. Because his body wasn't clearing the sodium efficiently, it stayed in circulation all night, pushing his blood pressure to dangerous levels in the early hours of the morning. This kind of nighttime sodium load is risky because it collides with another natural process, the circadian rhythm of blood pressure. Normally, blood pressure dips at night, giving your heart and vessels a chance to rest. But high sodium intake in the evening can blunt or even reverse that dip, leading to what's called non-dipping blood pressure, a pattern strongly linked to higher risk of heart attack, stroke, and kidney damage in seniors. And here's the sneaky part. Even drinks that don't taste salty can be high in sodium. Some plant-based milks, for example, can contain 100-200 milligrams per cup. Sports drinks, electrolyte waters, and flavored instant teas can easily top 250 milligrams in a single serving. These numbers might not seem high on their own, but when consumed at night, they can trigger a sustained elevation in blood pressure, right when your heart should be resting. For seniors already dealing with high blood pressure, heart failure, or kidney issues, that extra load can be the tipping point toward a medical crisis. And because these drinks are often marketed as wellness products, many people don't think to check the sodium content at all. If you want to know how subtle and deceptive this risk can be, think about Harold, who thought he was doing his body good every night, only to learn that his health drink was quietly undermining his heart health. He was shocked to find that cutting it out entirely stabilized his nighttime blood pressure within a week. So if sodium can hide in your bedtime beverage, what else might be lurking there? In the next section, we'll uncover another hidden threat, one that has nothing to do with salt or sugar, but everything to do with acid reflux and the silent strain it places on your heart while you sleep. When people think of acid reflux, they often imagine heartburn, that sharp burning sensation in the chest after a spicy or heavy meal. But for many seniors, acid reflux happens silently during the night without the classic symptoms. You might not feel pain yet. Your body is quietly experiencing repeated episodes of stomach acid creeping up into the esophagus while you sleep. And here's what's even more alarming. This silent reflux can place hidden stress on your heart. To understand why, let's take a step back. Acid reflux occurs when the lower esophageal sphincter, a muscular valve between your esophagus and stomach, doesn't close tightly enough. In younger people, it can still be triggered by certain foods or overeating, but the valve itself is usually stronger. After 60, That valve naturally weakens, making reflux episodes more likely, especially when lying down. Now here's where your nighttime drink comes in. Certain beverages, including some herbal teas, hot chocolate, fruit juices, and dairy-based drinks, can relax the sphincter muscle, making it easier for acid to flow upward. Others may be naturally acidic, increasing irritation. When this happens during sleep, the acid can reach not only the throat, but also stimulate nerves in the esophagus that are connected to your heart. This nerve stimulation can mimic or even trigger cardiac symptoms. In some cases, nighttime reflux has been linked to arrhythmias, abnormal heart rhythms, and episodes of angina-like chest pain. For seniors whose hearts may already be under strain from high blood pressure or vascular stiffness, this extra stress can be dangerous. One patient who stands out in my memory is Frank T., a 70-year-old retired engineer. Frank had no history of heart disease, but he'd been waking up several nights a week with shortness of breath and a racing heartbeat. He assumed it was anxiety, or perhaps a bad dream. When we conducted overnight monitoring, we discovered a different picture. Each episode began shortly after a reflux event, which in turn was triggered by his nightly habit of drinking a large glass of warm milk with cocoa. The combination of dairy fat, natural chocolate compounds, and lying flat allowed acid to creep into his esophagus, setting off nerve responses that made his heart work harder. Frank's case isn't rare. In fact, studies show that nocturnal acid reflux is more common in people over 60, and the risk is heightened by certain evening foods and drinks. The danger isn't just the reflux itself, it's the cumulative strain it places on the cardiovascular system. Over time, repeated nighttime episodes can contribute to chronic inflammation, a known factor in both heart disease and stroke. Another factor many people overlook is that acid reflux can disrupt sleep quality. Every time your body reacts to acid entering the esophagus, it can briefly wake you, even if you don't remember it. These micro-awakenings prevent your heart from fully entering its deep rest phase when repair and recovery happen. The result: you wake up feeling tired, your blood pressure is higher, and your heart has had less opportunity to heal. And here's the part that makes this such a stealthy threat. You can have serious nighttime reflux without a single episode of classic heartburn. Many seniors never realize it's happening until a doctor connects the dots. So what can you do? Being mindful of what you drink before bed is a crucial step. Avoiding acidic or reflux-triggering drinks in the evening can significantly reduce these silent episodes, giving your heart the restful environment it needs. But reflux is just one more piece of the puzzle. In the next section, we're going to talk about something even less obvious: how the diuretic effect of certain nighttime drinks can cause dehydration while you sleep, thickening your blood and pushing your stroke risk higher without you even realizing it. Most people think of dehydration as something that happens during a long, hot day or after heavy exercise. But for many seniors, dehydration strikes at night, and the cause is often hiding in that comforting evening drink. The reason: diuretics. A diuretic is any substance that makes your body produce more urine. Some are prescription medications used to treat high blood pressure or heart failure. But many everyday beverages, from herbal teas to hot chocolate, contain natural compounds that have a diuretic effect. Even seemingly gentle drinks like chamomile tea or certain detox blends can increase nighttime urination. And if they also contain caffeine, even in small amounts, the effect is amplified. Now here's the problem. As you age, your body's fluid balance becomes more delicate. Seniors have a lower total body water percentage compared to younger adults, which means losing even a small amount of fluid can tip you toward dehydration more quickly. On top of that, your thirst mechanism becomes less sensitive with age, so you may not even realize you're getting dehydrated. Why is this dangerous for your heart and brain? When your body loses water, your blood becomes thicker. Thicker blood flows less easily, making your heart work harder to pump it through your arteries. This also increases the likelihood of clot formation. And as we've already discussed, a clot forming in the wrong place can lead to a stroke or heart attack. I recall treating a patient named Lorraine D., a 73-year-old retired nurse who was meticulous about her health. She avoided sugar, kept her sodium intake low, and walked daily. But she had one nightly ritual, a large mug of a relaxing herbal blend before bed. What she didn't realize was that it contained both mild natural diuretics and trace amounts of caffeine. She began waking up several times a night to use the bathroom but brushed it off as just part of getting older. One morning, Lorraine awoke feeling unusually weak on her right side, with a tingling sensation in her arm. She was rushed to the hospital, where we diagnosed a mild ischemic stroke. Blood work revealed she was slightly dehydrated, and her hemoglobin levels, a marker of blood thickness, were higher than normal. Combined with her stiffened arteries, that dehydration was enough to tip her into a clotting event overnight. Dehydration doesn't just increase clot risk. It can also cause dangerous shifts in blood pressure. For some seniors, nighttime dehydration leads to low blood pressure upon standing in the morning, which can cause dizziness and falls. For others, the thickened blood from fluid loss raises pressure while lying down, stressing the heart. Either way, your cardiovascular system ends up paying the price. And here's the catch. Even if you drink plenty of water during the day, a single dehydrating beverage before bed can undo those efforts by triggering fluid loss while you're asleep. Worse, you're not replacing those fluids until morning, giving your blood several hours to remain in a thicker, riskier state. So while that cup of tea or cocoa might feel like self-care, it could be quietly working against you. If it sends you to the bathroom multiple times a night, or leaves you slightly dried out by dawn. But dehydration is only part of the story. In the next section, we'll explore another invisible nighttime danger, how certain drinks can disrupt your natural hormone cycles, especially melatonin, and interfere with your heart's repair process while you sleep. When you think of hormones and aging, you might picture changes in metabolism, bone density, or energy levels. But there's one hormone in particular that plays a silent nightly role in protecting your heart and brain: melatonin. Known as the sleep hormone, melatonin regulates your body's internal clock signaling when it's time to rest. What many people don't realize is that melatonin also has powerful cardiovascular benefits, and certain nighttime drinks can interfere with its production in ways that put seniors at greater risk. Melatonin does more than help you sleep. It's a potent antioxidant protecting your blood vessels from oxidative stress. It helps lower blood pressure naturally at night, a process known as nocturnal dipping, which gives your heart and arteries a crucial break from the day's workload. It also plays a role in reducing inflammation, which is linked to both heart disease and stroke. But here's the problem. Some of the most common bedtime beverages can blunt or delay melatonin release. Drinks with caffeine are the obvious culprits, as caffeine blocks adenosine, the chemical that tells your brain it's time to sleep and shifts your internal clock later. However, the disruption doesn't end there. Beverages high in sugar can also alter melatonin production by causing blood sugar spikes and crashes which signal your adrenal glands to release cortisol, a hormone that directly opposes melatonin's effects. Even certain herbal drinks can interfere with melatonin. For example, blends containing ginseng or guarana may be marketed as natural, but both have stimulant properties that can keep your brain in a more alert state, reducing melatonin secretion. Why does this matter so much for seniors? After 60, your natural melatonin levels are already lower than they were in your younger years. Any further disruption means your body misses out on the full repair cycle. It should go through at night, a cycle that's especially important for cardiovascular health. Without adequate melatonin, your blood vessels don't relax as much, your nighttime blood pressure stays higher, and your heart remains in a low-grade state of stress instead of recovery. I remember a patient, Joseph K., age 75, who came to me complaining of restless sleep and mild morning chest discomfort. He swore he didn't drink coffee at night, but when we reviewed his habits, I noticed he often had a calming chai latte before bed. The problem, his chai mix contained black tea, a source of caffeine, along with added sugars. Overnight heart monitoring revealed that his blood pressure was failing to dip properly, and his heart rate variability, a measure of recovery, was lower than normal. When he cut out the chai, both his sleep quality and his morning cardiovascular readings improved within a week. What's especially concerning is that the damage from melatonin disruption isn't always immediate. You might go weeks, months, or even years without noticing a direct problem. But night after night, your heart and blood vessels are missing the restorative break they need, leaving them more vulnerable to high blood pressure, plaque buildup, and arrhythmias. This is why I tell my patients your nighttime drink should never work against your body's natural rhythms. The goal is to create conditions that maximize melatonin release, not suppress it. That means avoiding stimulants, keeping sugar low, and choosing beverages that calm your system without adding hidden stressors. And speaking of stressors, nothing drives the point home more than hearing it from someone who's lived through a heart scare caused by their bedtime drink. In the next section, we'll dive into a real patient story, one that begins with comfort and routine, but ends in a trip to the emergency room. Sometimes, the most powerful warning doesn't come from medical studies or expert advice. It comes from someone who's lived through the danger themselves. One such case that has stayed with me for years is that of Patricia Pat Reynolds, a 67-year-old retired librarian. Pat was sharp, lively, and deeply committed to her health. She exercised regularly, kept her weight stable, and prided herself on eating fresh, whole foods. But like many seniors, Pat had a cherished evening ritual. Every night, about an hour before bed, she would make herself a large mug of her favorite relaxation blend, a powdered drink mix marketed for sleep support. She believed it was the perfect way to unwind. It tasted creamy and slightly sweet, with a hint of cocoa. She'd sip it while reading a book, feeling the stress of the day melt away. The label was full of reassuring words, natural, soothing, restorative. What it didn't make obvious was that this mix contained 3 hidden risk factors for her caffeine from cocoa, 18 grams of sugar per serving, and nearly 300 milligrams of sodium. It was a triple hit, stimulating her nervous system, spiking her blood sugar, and raising her nighttime blood pressure all at once. One January morning, Pat's husband was startled awake by the sound of something crashing in the kitchen. He found her gripping the countertop, pale and confused. She struggled to form words, her speech slurred and uneven. An ambulance rushed her to the hospital, where she was diagnosed with a transient ischemic attack, TIA, a mini-stroke caused by a brief clot blocking blood flow to part of her brain. Pat was fortunate. Her symptoms resolved within a few hours, leaving no lasting physical damage. But the event was a wake-up call. She was stunned when I explained that her nightly drink, the one she thought was helping her sleep, was likely a major contributor. The combination of sugar and caffeine was pushing her blood pressure up while she slept, while the sodium was preventing her arteries from relaxing as they should. This environment made it far more likely for a clot to form and briefly block a vessel in her brain. In reviewing her case, we also found that Pat's blood pressure was not dipping at night the way it should. Normally, healthy adults experience a drop in blood pressure of about 10 to 20% during sleep. Pat's stayed flat, sometimes even higher than her daytime readings, thanks to the stimulating effects of her bedtime drink. That pattern is a known red flag for increased risk of stroke and heart attack. The emotional impact of the incident was just as real as the physical one. Pat told me I thought I was doing something good for myself. I thought I was being careful. And it was that one comforting habit that nearly put me in the grave. Her story is a reminder that danger often hides in the familiar. It's not just the obvious vices, alcohol, smoking, or greasy fast food that can harm you. Sometimes it's the everyday rituals we never question. After her TIA, Pat gave up the drink entirely. She switched to a simple caffeine-free herbal infusion with no added sugar or sodium. Within 2 weeks, her nighttime blood pressure began to dip again. She slept more soundly, woke feeling more refreshed, and most importantly, reduced her risk of another stroke. Her case reinforces a critical truth for seniors. Even small nightly exposures to caffeine, sugar, or sodium can have outsized effects on heart and brain health. And those effects often build quietly, day after day, until a tipping point is reached. In our final section, I'll share the safest nighttime beverage options you can choose instead. Drinks that work with your body's natural rhythms to protect your heart, improve your sleep, and keep your mornings free from fear. If you've followed me this far, You've learned how a seemingly harmless nighttime drink can quietly undermine your heart and brain health, spiking blood pressure, thickening your blood, disrupting your hormones, and robbing your body of the restorative sleep it needs. But I want to end this on a reassuring note. You have the power to change this starting tonight. Aging changes how your body interacts with food and drink. Your arteries may be stiffer, your kidneys less efficient, and your metabolism slower. But with the right choices, you can work with these changes instead of against them. And that means giving your heart and brain the peaceful nighttime environment they need to recover and heal. The first step is to eliminate drinks that carry hidden risks, especially those containing caffeine-added sugars, excess sodium, or reflux-triggering ingredients. Once you've removed those, replacing them with safe, heart-friendly alternatives will not only protect your health, but can also become a source of real comfort. Here are 6 nighttime drink options I recommend to my patients over 60. Warm water with a squeeze of lemon, very light. Hydrates gently without overloading your stomach or causing reflux. The lemon should be mulled to avoid acidity issues. Caffeine-free rooibos tea, naturally antioxidant-rich, supports vascular health and completely free of stimulants. Chamomile infusion calms the nervous system and promotes relaxation, but only if it's pure chamomile with no added flavorings or stimulants. Light golden milk turmeric with almond milk, anti-inflammatory, heart protective, and soothing as long as it's unsweetened and made with a low-sodium plant milk. Peppermint tea supports digestion and relaxation, but avoid if you have reflux, as peppermint can relax the esophageal sphincter. Plain warm almond or oat milk, naturally low in sodium and sugar when unsweetened, providing gentle comfort without blood pressure spikes. When choosing any beverage, read the label carefully. Look for 0 caffeine, less than 5 grams of sugar per serving, and sodium content below 50 milligrams. Beyond drink choices, timing matters. Aim to finish your last beverage at least 1 hour before bed, giving your body time to process it, and reducing nighttime bathroom trips. And if you enjoy something slightly sweet, pair it with a small amount of protein or healthy fat, such as a few almonds, to help keep blood sugar stable. I also tell my patients to think of their nighttime drink as part of a wind-down ritual that supports melatonin production. Dim the lights, avoid screens, and breathe deeply while you sip. This way your drink becomes more than just a habit. It becomes a signal to your body that it's time to rest and repair. Patricia, the patient we met in the last section, still enjoys her nightly ritual. But now, it's a small cup of rooibos tea with a slice of apple earlier in the evening. She says she wakes feeling lighter, her mornings calmer, and most importantly, she feels safe. That sense of control over her health is something no supplement or prescription can replace. Remember, prevention is rarely about one big, dramatic action. It's about consistently making small, informed choices that add up to a lifetime of protection. Every safe night you give your heart and brain is another step toward a stronger, healthier tomorrow. If you've made it to the end of this video, here's what I want you to take away. Your body changes with age, but your habits can change with it. Stop giving your heart and brain hidden nighttime challenges. Instead, give them the gift of rest, recovery, and protection. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0 so I know how to improve. Your feedback means a lot to us. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss another senior health tip made just for you.